good afternoon. I'm Daniel Miller. And this is the Gaming Dialogue News. A warm welcome to all of our friends, fans, community members, participants, viewers, and everyone watching us worldwide. Thank you for joining us and thank you for supporting our channel and our charitable fundraiser here for our charity called Mind. Thank you for your support and thank you for your contributions, participation, and everything else seen so far. As you know, I have been reworking the schedule and the format of my streams, and I'm very pleased to say that it has been well embraced by our community members. People are liking it and I'm receiving some messages of support, so that's great. And also I noticed that lots of people watched us on playback, not being able to see us live, but I think that's probably to do with my schedule, which has been somewhat different compared to the past. And I'd just like to invite everyone to be, coming in and having a chat live on air, in addition to just watching the playback. It's really good to get some interaction and also to get some comments and views from everyone. So let me just get this up and running. Okay, we got it. Yeah, so that's really great. Thanks everyone. And we are going to be going back to the regular schedule of Destiny streams from next week, and I'll try to test some of that on Sunday, I think. Saturday and Sunday this weekend, we'll have a bit of a test stream for what is to follow, and I really want to welcome everyone to those sessions. I can't seem to be able to get my... bear with me. I'm not getting my... yeah, I'm not sure what's causing it anyway. Right, so like I said, we are going to be having a bit of a test stream during this weekend. I'll try to really present you with a format that is to follow. Hopefully people will pop in, have a look and enjoy the content and everything else that I have to offer. It's a bit different compared to the past. I guess the major difference being that we are affiliated with many charities, and some charities in particular, which we are going to be supporting live on air. So in this instance, this is the charity called Mind, a UK-based organisation that helps people who are suffering from mental health problems. And you would have seen already from various postings on Twitter and elsewhere that we've had quite a lot of interest, and people had shared and followed and basically participated with the kind of mini PR campaign for the charity. We want to just spread the word and raise the awareness and get as many donations and contributions as possible. So thank you all for that, and thank you for supporting the channel and everything else that we do here. So right, how's everybody today? How's everyone? I have to tell you that in what games are you playing is the other question that I need to have for everyone. I'm trying to get my chat on secondary, and for some reason I'm not getting it. I don't know what's causing it. Just bear with me. I really have to get this up and running because I need to see the chat on my secondary. It doesn't want to provide me with anything. I don't know what's going on. What I am going to ask everyone is, what are your current games and what is that presently you're playing on your consoles or your PCs? I'm curious to see, curious to hear, and I can certainly tell you I have quite a selection to offer, and the one which I'm going to be describing, if you were here with us for the news during the last few days, you would have seen that I had recommended several titles, and some of them I find to be quite exceptional. Some are indie, some are mainstream, and it's just been really good fun exploring all the titles on the Game Pass, which are coming from ID at Xbox, and indie developers, also a bit like our charities, are the organizations that I wish to be supporting, and really enjoy doing that. And I particularly enjoy discovering the titles I'd never heard of that turn out to be really absolutely massive, and also enjoy receiving recommendations from you guys. And I've had a few messages, and I didn't manage to catch up with the recommendations as yet, but all that is going to be coming soon, and lots of titles to look forward to, lots of titles to get through. we are facing the showcase season, which is ahead of us, and quite a few showcase events already have been advertised. We've seen the one for Bungie and for the Final Shape. We had seen the other telling us that Microsoft are also going to have the Xbox presentation on the 9th of June, and then Ubisoft, and then PlayStation, and the list just goes on and on. So, you know, we have quite a selection of those different types of companies that are going to be giving us a rundown on everything that is to follow, and also they'll give us a very good picture on some of the most current releases and everything that we are expecting more or less imminently to arrive to our shores. So yeah, so at the moment I am playing, and I'll tell you what I'm doing at the moment. Just bear with me, I need to get my achievements and the list up and running. I'm still getting to know the setup, you know, and it has been a bit testing for me. It's taken me a bit of time, and I think I'm getting there, so you have to bear with me if it comes across as being funny or sometimes mince my words, or like for instance today I had created a story on Twitch for everyone to see, indicating that we are doing our Gaming Dialogue news here on the channel live, and for whatever reason on my secondary it doesn't want to provide me with the live feed. It's just giving me the story. I don't know why. Do you know? Anybody knows? Just ping me a message. I just keep getting the story. I can't get my live feed, and I can't get my chat up and running on the secondary. So that's really, you know, a serious downer for me, because I had a setup that worked perfectly so far, and this is a novelty. I've seen they introduced stories a bit like what you have on WhatsApp, in order to draw attention, and people pick up on the stories through it's like a small social networking section of Twitch, which is fairly new, or newish I should say, and I really want to test it. I want to see whether we'll get some new community members and people who are interested in debating whatever is happening out there. And as you've seen, we had quite a few people from the US coming in live on air and debating the current status of the video game industry, and we want to get that back to the channel, and we will get a lot more of that with regularity and everyday streams, which will comprise podcasts together with video gaming news, and obviously what people like the best, our gameplay. So today we'll look at several games which have been giving us some interesting additions. I'll tell you in a moment about those, but before then we'll be checking out what games I have on my console at the moment. And the one I'm playing at the moment, the big AAA blockbuster, is Tomb Raider from 2013, and that's on the Definitive Edition. And I have to say, I played it initially. It was definitely a very, very interesting adventure game, but watching it now on 4K restoration, or I should say remaster, and with all other additions like unlockables and concept arts and bits and pieces which you get as you carry on through the game, and you know, as you are collecting stuff for your inventory and leveling up with your skill tree, you're getting those unlockables, and fantastic, really. I've got to say, massively improved, and definitely one of my favorite adventure games of recent times. And it's not that recent, but I mean, I'm just replaying it now. So for me, one of the best games I played for a little while, and I think it's amazing how much enhanced it is. You know, the fluidity of Lara's character in terms of the gameplay, the movements and jumps, and they were a bit cranky, I thought, initially in some areas of the game, but now they're just absolutely perfect. And there was one glitch, so if you're playing it, I need to warn you on this. It's a very serious glitch, and generally, as a tip, if you get into very funny situations in video games, what you need to do is you simply need to be checking out Reddit for the solutions. For instance, the most common problem is that you hit a glitch and you think there is something that you're doing wrong, there's something you've not collected or you have not completed elsewhere, but actually you've got everything right and the game is playing a game with you, and you've got to really go to Reddit to find that solution. So I really did that yesterday. I think it's the first quarter of the game. You get to a radio tower with Lara, and she is trying to send a message, an SOS message, for the rescue crew to come in and help them because they're stranded on a Japanese island in the middle of nowhere and being attacked by very, very mighty enemies, and you know, they just want to get some help. So you get to the tower, that's all fine, everything works okay, but once you get to the top, you need to tune into the frequency that will give you straightforward connection to the rescue squad. And that's a glitch, you know, there's a glitch in there. So she's standing and twisting and turning the frequency, and you're not getting anything, and you can tell it's a glitch. So the solution offered on Reddit was to basically reload the game and then try exactly the same again. And actually on Xbox that didn't work. Could have worked on some other platform, but on Xbox that didn't work, and I tried a couple of times, and then I just still looked for a solution, and there was a video and someone posted, well, once you get to the frequency, just keep pressing X and automatically it will adjust, and therefore you'll be able to get through. So I did exactly that. I kept pressing X as well as turning the button for the frequency, and it all kind of got straightened out. So if you're playing Tomb Raider Definitive Edition on Xbox, hit the glitch, that is your solution. It's a very, very big thing, because you can spend quite a lot of time thinking that you're doing something wrong, and actually it's something that can be overcome by this rather wise approach given to us by one of those Tomb Raider community members. And so on Xbox, you need to keep turning the button for frequency, and then what you are getting is you need to be pressing X. You keep pressing X relentlessly and you will just get through it. Alright, so just a tip. So Definitive Edition is very good. It is very immersive, beautiful design, illustrations, and the environment are second to none. And I'd say already, compared to all other Lara Croft games I played, I did not play Rise of the Tomb Raider and the other one, which is basically part of the survival trilogy, but this one is for me, at the moment, my personal favorite. It's very enjoyable, it's very captivating. You grab by the game, you grab by the character. She looks beautiful, she's very smart, and actually it's like she's in her alpha and beta test of the environment. She's never done it before, never shot a gun, and never really tried any of these activities. So really, what's interesting is you as the lead character are in the same position. You're also kind of testing your abilities, and there are a few hurdles and there are a few difficulties, particularly with jumping and catching ledges and trying to get through certain doors and gates, depending on what difficulty level you choose yourself to be in. I usually go for the story, because I like following the narrative. I don't want to be overburdened by battles and all other things that come together with, the nightmare difficulty levels. And I think for myself, getting to know the story, getting to know the environment is essential on the first gameplay. And then eventually, if I like the game, I might do a replay on, different difficulty levels. But that's certainly something I always do. And coming back to this, there have been, even on the story level, a couple of hurdles, and it's very important. Well, I just want to stress that it's great that the developer managed to patch up and create that degree of fluidity for the lead character, through which he can be easily jumping and catching stones and then climbing and doing all sorts of things. So thoroughly enjoyable, highly recommend it, and definitely I will be playing the game up to the point where it's fully completed. I tried Evil West just to see what it's like, and it really grabbed me as well. I was surprised that Evil West was so visually beautiful. I thought it was going to be more of a shooter type of, kind of standard FPS or DPS type of game, but it really grabbed me. I thought, that's amazing. It looks like Railway Empire or the Red Dead, with its very mild watery type of deserts and canyons and Wild West environments. Anyone who likes westerns, or anyone who's like really into cinephilia and cinematic type of images, well, that game's going to be definitely up your alley, so definitely try it. Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons, a game that popped up this week on Game Pass. I played it in the past. It's a wonderful game. If you're familiar with Josef Fares, Swedish developer, he makes these games which are always geared towards co-op, and they're fairly linear in terms of the storytelling, but highly replayable, and they always have a very ethical, very meaningful message that comes across when you play any of his titles. So without actually giving any spoilers or revealing anything, I can tell you Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons is a wonderful game, and I highly recommend it to everyone. And it's just arrived to Game Pass. Just make sure you download or play it on cloud. It's been on PlayStation Plus and PlayStation Now services already for some time, but there's a chance, you know. And you'll see Josef Fares frequently at Jeff Keighley's events. They're really good friends, and they go back a long way. And he also did some presentations, I remember, a little while back, and just one of my favorite developers. And he's so kind of straightforward, does not mince his words. You know, he says lots of things about video game industry and people who run it. Just a great guy through and through, you know. And I really love his games, because the games are not just, his games are not just about gaming. They also have a very important ethical message interwoven within the narrative. So pay attention to that. Kona, I'm doing at the moment as well. I have a bit cold feet on the game. It's a game that takes place in a very, very cold environment north of Quebec, but there have been some hurdles for me in the course of the gameplay, and I think that really kind of irritated me somewhat. Certain items were not clearly labeled for collection, so I had to go back to different areas in order to complete. And if you're familiar with the game, you are trying to resolve a murder mystery, and then you stumble upon very kind of tricky types of supernatural selection of events, and you need to collect lots of things in order to carry on to get through the game. And some of those items are not clearly visible. The locations which you're exploring are quite far apart, and there's no fast travel. And that tells you that unless you're very meticulous and you're paying attention to where these items are, you will have to be traveling back and literally got to be driving through a snowstorm. It's quite difficult to find those places when you're driving. And, you know, that's for me the minus, the way I experienced it, the kind of a down point. Because everything else is really good. Storytelling, the atmosphere, music, the environment. But I had to go back several times, and the worst of it all was like the magnet. There was one magnet that had to be tied in to a wire, and I didn't have either of those two items. So I had to go all the way back from one side of the map to the other, and then I had to look for it, and it was quite hard to find. And that's happened, I think, twice or three times with different items, and I didn't really like that, I've got to say. That magnet in particular was very hard to find. It was not visible, not properly marked. And then there was another one for the vehicle he uses to travel on snow. And again, very, very hard to find. It was in a shed, but not properly labeled. And you could have gone there several times, even with your light on. You still, you know, were having a difficulty unless you knew exactly where it was. So, anyway, it's just a small issue, but if it happens several times in a game, then it kind of irritates you, you know. Otherwise, Kona is a good game and enjoyable, as I said. Very atmospheric in Canada of the early 70s, and you will enjoy some of the aspects of the game for sure. And then I told you all about the other ones I'm playing as well. Rewinder, a little to the left, the Puzzler, Have a Nice Death, Little Kitty Big City. Well, Little Kitty Big City I'm playing quite a bit. It's a new game that's just come in to Xbox Game Pass, and thoroughly enjoyable. Reminds me of those animated films of the 1930s of Tex Avery's and Richard Fleischer's, you know, with animals being like humans and being in kind of funny situations, and a lot of fun. So definitely most highly recommended. Right, so that is what I can tell you about the games I'm playing at the moment. And what are you doing? What are your games? That I'm curious to hear. And I have like several major topics I want to discuss today. But just wait me a second. I really still want to be getting my stream on the secondary, and for whatever reason, it's not popping up. It's just giving me this story. I don't know why. Ah, I've got it. I see. So that's the way it works. Let's do this again. So we click on the story, and then we click on live, and then it pops up. Kaboom. The problem has been resolved. So that's good. I know now what to do. Anyway, it's a new thing. So like with WhatsApp, like with Instagram, and with Facebook, you've got the stories which you can upload, and they're very good. Some of my colleagues, people also provide you with Twitch streams. Like Miss Mika and all the other ones, they really make very interesting stories. It's just like a one-shot story, and you can draw attention. You can bring in other participants and basically tell them what you're about to be doing, specifically if you're doing a different sort of stream. And that's exactly what I'm doing at the moment. I've changed the concept. I have several streams, podcast, news, and gameplay. And therefore, anyone who's interested in terms of what I'm doing, you can just click on the story and you get the information straight away. So if you're interested in the news, stay with us. If you're not interested, don't waste your time and come back for the podcast or indeed for our gameplay. So, it's making it more streamlined, easier for people to detect and choose, because, time is precious. We have generally a lot to do, and wasting time on something that is not really part of your niche is definitely not something I would be recommending. Today, a bit like a couple of weeks ago, like cold, drizzly, misty, rainy type of weather, so not very good day to go out, and it's been drizzling pretty much the whole day. Not very happy about that, and therefore I couldn't really go out for my regular pre-stream stroll, which I really miss. And in England we are getting this sort of weather now in May. It's been strange. A few days ago we were also reaching like late 20s, early 30s, proper summer temperatures, and now we've gone back to kind of autumnal rain and mist and fog and all sorts. And still, the air is fresh, makes it easier for us to sleep, and I had really a few nights of very, very good sleep with that fresh air, window wide open, and happy at the end of the day. Hope you are all having a very good, very healthy, ethical game time, and hopefully you're also enjoying some of that weather, meaning getting some fresh air, not the rain. Maybe some people enjoy the rain. I used to go out and used to go for my lengthy jogs, do my 12-mile run, and particularly loved it in London when we had a rainy weather. The reason is simple. London is quite polluted, and when you have that rainy weather, then the air is purified, so you can be running with ease, and the air is definitely cleaner and better for your lungs and for your stamina. I used to do that a lot, but no longer. I developed some heel injuries, and they've been affecting my ability to do these jogs, and so after many, many years, I had to give that a miss, which is absolutely gut-wrenching and heartbreaking, as you could imagine, and not gone back to it. Really, when those heels get aggravated, I can't actually move my foot, which means it's almost semi-paralytic, and that really bothered me for some time. That's 4 or 5 years I had to spend in trying to get it back to normal. Had not recurred in recent times, but still had to be very careful not to be upsetting it. And as you will know from my sessions and podcasts, I always pay particular attention to the maintenance of my own health, because I know where my health goes south, then it's very, very hard to bring it back to normal. And I've had, a few incidents of that in my lifetime, and I did have to be working extremely hard to bring it back to this degree of normality. So advise everyone to be very careful with the way you're approaching your kind of physical side of being, and the way you are providing your own health maintenance, and don't ruin it. Don't do things which are damaging, and just adhere to very healthy living, and you'll be much more of a positive, forward-thinking, happier person overall. Right, so let me see what we've got here today. I have a couple of articles I want to discuss with you. Apex, about 7 or 8 days ago, had launched a new season, and they gave us this new legend, and I told you a bit about it, but I've not actually gone through the whole concept of what we are getting as new in Apex. And Apex has been the game that prominently featured here on the channel. Many people joined our community because they wanted to hammer Apex. Very many at the time, and this goes back about 4 years, I think, roughly. Many of those friends had joined us after they migrated from Battlefield. Battlefield being one of the most popular shooters at the time, and everyone who went to Apex was delighted to see that this game was literally created for their own particular taste, and joined forces with others, and we had lots of fun. I mean, the lengthiest session of any game I played was in Apex. It was 36 hours, and we had like a marathon session, something I will never ever do again. I was just really, I'd say by accident, it turned out this way. We had about 2 or 3 squads that really were up for it. We played consistently, and it was just like a really, really good lengthy session, but not for me. It's not something I endorse, and I do not see that as particularly healthy. So therefore it was a one-off, and it will be always remembered in my life as an event that, you know, somehow developed very spontaneously without me even paying attention to time, and then realized, hang on a minute, it's not Thursday but it's Friday already. How is this possible? And, that just tells you that that's not the way to do it. Right, so we have Upheaval, and that's the new patch that has been applied, and we also were given that new character, new legend called Alter. And on the EA website for Apex you have beautiful trailers and various other bits and pieces which are kind of tying in with the title. And Alter is the new legend, and they say that this character is an agent of chaos, concerned with having fun and bringing about the end to the world. So really somebody who likes destroying and destruction by the looks of it. Everything is a game to her, and she is always looking for an advantage. Her kit adds an entirely unique dimension to the Apex games, allowing her, i.e. you, to create void passages through Geo or escape through the void to her Nexus, and her enemies believe that they have the upper hand. So her abilities are similar to Wraith, I guess, and her ability to craft unsuspecting rotations through the world will sow new levels of disorder in the ring, and she cannot wait to watch the whole place burn. Well, anyone who likes high-octane action will definitely go for Alter, I think. And you have a lot more of that, and her ability is described on the Apex Highlights blog. So if you're interested, just head there, and there is a posting on my Twitter as well. So go to my Twitter, click follow, and enter that post, and then just get more knowledgeable on what this character, this new legend, Alter, is going to be doing. So I think if you are to describe that in simple terms, you'll have, there's like a passive ability, and that's Gift from the Rift. You can remotely interact with the death box to claim one item, cannot be a shield core. Then you have Tactical, which is creating a portal passageway through a surface. And then the ultimate will be Void Nexus. So this character can go back to Nexus, and you can create a regroup point that everyone from your team can be remotely interacting with in order to open a phase tunnel back to that location. So it's quite, I guess, similar and different. It's similar and different to what we have seen with one of the older legends here in Apex. Then you have upgrades. You have the ultimate cooldown, and that will be for the level 2. You'll be reducing ultimate cooldown by 30s. And then Void Vision, and that also level 2 upgrade is extend highlights and see health bars after exiting Tactical. So level 3 upgrade, and that's been fairly new in Apex. We had that during the last few months. Eternal Nexus, so Void Nexus no longer times out, so it's going to be there. So you don't have like 10-15 seconds to get through it. And then Tactical cooldown is reducing tactical cooldown by 10 seconds. So that's basically what you get with your character. Don't forget, you'll need to be getting 12,000 of currency in order to get this character into squad. And then I think you can also purchase if you want, but I always advise people to be grinding, to be making sure that the currency which is acquired is through your gameplay. We do not want the developers and the publishers to see or to think that we are so keen on purchasing everything on offer. You know, it's just it's an unrealistic picture that would have been given to them, and therefore lots of things which we get through the online free gameplay could be just offered to us on a pay-as-you-go charges, and we don't want to see that in games like Apex. And the vast majority of things which you're getting, well, let's say everything you're getting in Apex, can be acquired through in-game currency and your lengthy grinds. If you want to be speeding up, if you want to be looking funky, if you want to have the latest seasonal kits, then obviously you can resort to that button which says buy me, and then you'll have everything from the start. I've seen some streamers doing this, and I can understand why. Funky outfits and good stuff on display is drawing attention, and people come back to that channel to view, to see what's new, and that's particularly the case in the first week. So I guess we are still within the first week to a degree, and you know, Apex is just a very, very, very good game for everyone to play, and highly recommend it to everyone. It's for me one of the best battle royale multiplayer games I ever played. And what I particularly like is that the characters, to me, look a bit like some escapees from Borderlands, and they're just very funny. You know, the memes, the dialogue, the emotes, they're just hilarious. And obviously, if you get a good crew on board, if you get people who are together with you on a regular basis, you will be having a lot more fun with the game. As is the case with Warzone and Destiny and all other multiplayer games. I need to tell you, you know it all. So Solos Takeover, the solos are coming back, and they will be taking over the duos from May the 7th. So that is already about 8 days ago. And that will be taking place between the 7th and 24th of June. So that is what, 70 days altogether. And they said, we've taken aspects of some of our most popular modes and integrated them to keep things interesting. Use your battle sense to detect nearby enemies, tear things up with pre-kitted weapons and attachments, keep the fight going with auto-heal and second chance mechanics. Well, I'm in two minds about that. This is a multiplayer game, and if you are increasing the emphasis on solos, what you will get is, once the solos end, the same lots of people who are doing the solos and kind of treasuring their remarkable skills and achievements will migrate into the trios, and trios select new squads instantly if you're going through the random matchmaking. And you will find that some of these guys will not be your team players. They'll just come in and they'll run a trio as if it was a solo game, and that really is not acceptable in any way. So I'm in two minds about this. You know, obviously it's optional, but there are quite a lot of people who are playing such games like PUBG, for instance, as solos, and therefore it changes the mindset to a degree. And also it does bring in a group of players who otherwise would be more interested in their own effort than anything else shared with the squad. And upheaval map rotation. So you have the following maps, which are coming to pubs and ranked for the first half of this new season. That's Broken Moon, King's Canyon, World's Edge. I guess all these maps we played many times before. They're very good, and what I like about them, they're tactical. So it's not really small, so you can be strategizing unless you're dropping into the areas where there is the highest or the biggest quality loot, you know, then you will get obliterated. It's all about speed and your ability to engage the enemy as quickly as possible, as well as to be together with your squad. If you are jumping together and you all jump in the same area, very close to one another, you can be contesting the other guys unless there are 2 or 3 squads together coming to the same place. So I have seen that quite a few times, and I have seen some people who are really absolutely tip-top with their shooting skills and the abilities to kind of defend and occupy. So it's possible, but you need to consider what skills your squad has and how you will be applying that to the overall gameplay. So if you're interested in the Broken Moon map, then just go to the website of EA's and get the rundown on everything that's related to it. You have quite a few artifacts there in the game, and they said that the pantheon of Apex artifacts is rapidly expanding, and you can go to the blog and then find out more about every one of those. And then you have patch notes, you know, like care packages. You get Wingman back to the floor, you get projectile size reduced to pre-care package values, Skull Piece Elite removed. So I don't want to bore you with some of these details. However, if you are a regular, if you're a dedicated Apex veteran, you will be interested in some of these, as they will be changing the effectiveness of your weapons and will be affecting some of the activity in the game. So the best thing to do is just go to EA website, go to Apex Legends, and then access the patch notes. So that's basically the detailed description of everything that has been introduced to the game. Then we have weapons and attachments. 30-30 repeater. Skull Piece hop-up is removed. So if you're using this weapon, beware, because you'll be looking for this mod and it will be no longer applicable. Charge rifle. ADS recoil improved and stabilized. Longbow DMR. Several things that happened there. Barrel stabilizer is gone. Skull Piercer hop-up gone. and you have a recoil significantly improved, and then you have projectile gravity reduced. Well, that's good to see, because sometimes you're really surprised with some weapons being overly powerful, and you want to be getting always the very best. Triple take takes boosted loader hop up as well, and then you have with hop ups two things. One is skull pierce is gone from the loot pool, and then you've got the other, which is boosted loader added to the loot pool. And then you have some nerfing and tweaking on the legends, like Ash, Ballistic, and you get all the details in a Bloodhound as well. Like for instance, Bloodhound, Beast of the Hunt cooldown is increased to 4 minutes, and now it was previously 3 minutes. And then you have Nox with the ultimate active no longer, extend duration. For every character they've got something interesting and new. So if you're playing a particular character, I'm playing Bangalore, so let me see what they have for Bangalore, if anything. Conduit, Crypto, Fuse, Newcastle, Octane, Watson. Well, looks like Bangalore is staying exactly the same, so a big deal for me. You have broken maps, Shattered. You have introduction of solos to the modes. So if you want to be playing solo, you have 6 weeks Geos Takeover, so that's 50 players, and then you have second chance respawn as well, so that's new. Automatically respawn once if you die in the first 4 rounds, and then second chance converted to Evo if unused by the round cutoff. So that's quite good. I think it's very frustrating if you are to be dropping in an area with hot loot and then you get immediately eliminated as a solo player. But at the end of the day, if the game is to stay true to core, to be a proper survival stroke battle royale, you will need to keep that. You need to polish up your skills, and you need to seriously consider where you want to be dropping. In any battle royale, it's critical, most important, you're always dropping in an area which is very far away from everyone, and therefore you're collecting high quality loot and then gravitating towards the central section, as the circle begins to shrink. And that's the tactics, that's the strategies, and the vast majority of very successful teams, they will not go on a kind of frontal all-out assault. They'll go for that type of perhaps more conservative, more stealthy, more careful approach, and then they'll be doing so-called the circle, which means as the circle is shrinking, you are following the outer line of the circle, and you're moving in together with it. So if you are, a person who's played Apex for some time, you'll know that when circle gets accelerated, that is the best time to be watching whether anyone is doing that strategy, and then obviously you can take your shots and make sure they get eliminated. So you have second chance respawn, battle sense, HUD indicator with enemies are within 50 meters, automatic heals, health regenerates out of combat, automatically you'll get healing starting after each kill, so you neutralize the enemy and you get your health back up. And then additional, it's almost like you taking a life, right? Additional adjustments to loot pool, circle sizes, and round times to accommodate a solo play. They changed mixtape, so have a rotation and mixtape rotation, and then you have some new songs, new tracks being introduced, and so that's all good. Then you have ranked. It says that for anyone who wants to be joining the ranked sessions, all players in a pre-made rank squad must be within 3 rank tiers of each other, or they will not be allowed to be progressing to matchmaking. So I mean, they're trying to kind of polish up the matchmaking, so you get people who have similar skill, but that's quite difficult. Sometimes people change consoles or they restart on the account, and they might have really massive skills and they appear to be less skilled according to the stats. Not always really the most appreciated type of approach, but it is present and it's very hard to detect. But I think eventually the assumption is, if you are playing your game on one platform right from the beginning, then the stats that you have are a real representation of what you're actually doing in the game. I think that probably applies to most people, and that's fair and square. And that will be the merit to which they'll judge what people need to be slotted in with some other squads. And So no tuning changes to be made to rank scoring for the launch of Upheaval. And then you have season reset. So where you ended in your last season of ranked will determine where you start from the beginning in Upheaval in the new season. If you ended your last season in Rookie, you will be reset to 1 RP. And if you ended your last season above Rookie, you will be reset to Bronze 4. So I've not played really last couple of seasons much due to various reasons which I describe in my podcasts, all to do with my health and my dad's health. But previously I always enjoyed the first couple of weeks of any new season, and would join in and play for a bit to see what the novelties were. And then split timing, you have Split 2 will take place at the same time as the one patch, not a week later, similar to previous sessions, or I'd say unlike in previous sessions. And then Upheaval ranked rewards, your end of season rewards will now be determined by the highest rank tier you managed to achieve during the entire season. Split rewards, your season end reward badge will be animated if you match or surpass your Split 1 rank in Split 2. If you do not achieve this, you will get the normal version of your badge. Well, in Apex you're collecting lots of things, and I quite like the throwables. When you are with your squad and you keep throwing this and they come like a hologram. Really good messages on some of these. Yeah, so you have other things applied such as quality of life, additional security improvements, death box flyers, ballistic, etc, etc. And then you have some tweaks on legends. I can see that the ballistic duration of Speedy Whistler restored to 2 seconds. And then you have graphics. They've been introducing map detail PC video setting to adjust the amount of environmental decoration and set dressing. So, really for these maps to be looking much better, and then to improve accuracy and visual fidelity and additional lighting. And, these things are very important if you want to be strategizing. And as you know, the game is accessible free of charge on all platforms. It's cross-platform game, and doesn't have cross-platform save. So if you're playing it on PlayStation, you will need to start from scratch on Xbox or PC. Remember that. And I think that's just completely crazy. I think considering the present day and age, I wrote to Respawn asking whether they are going to be changing this policy in due course, and they said they will never change the policy. They're categoric. But I think the times will tell. I think nobody is going to be in position to go to people to buy games on separate platforms or play them on separate platforms, because at the end of the day, if you migrated, let's say you've reached level 350 on PlayStation, you go to Xbox, you start with 1. And also it does give a wrong impression to the rest of the crews that are doing the game, because you come in, you're unbelievably experienced as a Apex veteran, everything, you're tipped up with everything that you're doing in the game, and anybody, even inclusive of the algorithms, will detect you as being a rookie, and you're not a rookie. Anyway, just me thinking aloud. Right, so that was a big thing. I really felt that I had to tell you more about Apex and what's been introduced. I really treasure the game and all of my wonderful gaming moments I had with my squads in my community here. But for whatever reason, there are other things coming in. And I guess what derailed me more than anything in the course of the week has been this Microsoft announcement coming from Xbox by the closure of these studios. So that really kicked up very, very big discussion across the industries, and everybody got engaged. And still, these things are being discussed today. So that's the reason as to why we not talked about Apex on the day when the new season started, which was last Tuesday. I think it was like 10 days ago now already. 9 days ago. Right, so the other very important thing that came up today is linked to a group campaigning for video games, and this group is called Stop Killing Games. And if you're wondering what that's about, well, you've seen that in recent times, like for instance yesterday I talked about 360 closing the shop, so you will not be able to purchase online any more of these games which are instantly compatible with 360. And we've seen that with some other games when they decided, well, the game's no longer viable, therefore we'll just pull the plug on the server and people can't access it anymore. Well, that is unfair and possibly unlawful in terms of the consumer's law. The consumers have purchased the product which becomes theirs, and the product needs to be owned by the one who had purchased it. And if you look at it on Xbox, the problem with the discs, for instance, when you want to access them online to the cloud, is that they need to be placed in the console, and then the system will detect whether you are the legal owner of that disc, i.e. it's not pirated or whatever. And so if you are being driven to do that every single time with a physical product, well, ultimately the publisher and the developer will have exactly the same responsibility towards you, because you've got the product, you paid for it, it's yours. You can't be just pulling a plug on it. Single player games which are on discs will have no problem of any sort, unless they're obviously physically damaged. But the live server games, and we know that the industry is more and more progressing down this route, have that responsibility. So this group is campaigning in Britain, and is taking various companies to court, and is petitioning with the government, which is the UK government, it's the central government of Britain, and asking for that to be protected, i.e. the consumers' rights. And they basically had sent a petition to the government, and the government had responded. So I can tell you what they have said. I think if you're part of the campaign and you're one of the petitioners, you'll be very, very curious and interested. It's literally hot off the press, just come in. And they basically, the government issued a response to this petition, and coming from PC Gamer, they said probably not what the organizers were hoping to hear. So the department that deals with this is called the Department of Culture, Media and Sport, right? So films and entertainment industries, they all come under that department. So this, the video game companies must comply with existing consumer laws, but also noted that there is no law compelling them to support older versions of the products. Well, it's similar to what you have with your Android, your mobile phone, you know? After a certain period of time, the mobile is too full of updates and all the other information, therefore you can't use it anymore. And you pay a lot of money for it. You know, if you're an iPhone player, you pay probably more than £1,000 for it, and you can't use it anymore. You need to buy a new one. So, you know, it's a tricky situation, because the manufacturers and the publishers, or I should say in the video game industry, it'll be always the publishers, they will resort to the law. Well, the tech has actually moved forward. We cannot do that anymore. It's a bit like having an old TV. You can't watch it anymore, an old radio set. You know, well, I understand that to a degree, but they actually have that responsibility, considering that, well, I mean, just have a look at the difference between Xbox and PlayStation. Xbox does have backward compatibility, and 75% of the overall titles are compatible with the new console. So if you have older discs, stick the disc in, and they'll download an update. The update will give you instant access to the game, and it will play perfectly well on the new console. Maybe sometimes with some minor issues, but generally it has been patched, and therefore it works. Well, if Microsoft can do that, so can everyone else, you know? Because you purchase these games, you are the owner of them. I think it's different for the games like Destiny or Fallout 76. We are talking about a different type of engagement, and also the maintenance and the provisions of the live service. But at the end of the day, there has got to be that degree of responsibility. I mean, how would the original Destiny 1 gamers feel if Bungie had turned around and said, well, we just pulled the plug on Destiny 1, you can't play it anymore? And just consider the money that's been invested in Destiny 1. The number of people who play the game and still play it today. The number of streamers who still stream the game. I mean, in my community here, we had many more people wanting to see Destiny 1 a lot more on the channel compared to the sequel. So, you know, these are very serious considerations, which I think publishers and developers need to, you know, take on board, and then come up with certain decisions. I'm not sure whether this is directly responsibility of the government, but any government could introduce certain laws which will make the publishers and the developers legally bound to the protection of the consumers' rights, right? So I think it becomes difficult if you purchase, let's say, Xbox original, Xbox 360 games, and then they simply do not work on any next-gen consoles, as is the case with PlayStation. Let's face the facts. If you had the discs for the older PlayStation consoles, they will not work on PlayStation 5. They had offered quite a selection of titles now through their streaming services, but that's not quite the same. You know, people who are dedicated gamers, they would have bought lots of games at a time, and they can just play them on the old consoles. And let's say if PlayStation 1 is plugged into a 4K TV, it will not provide you with the graphics, which are very easy on the eye. So, anyway, let's see what they said. Stop Killing Games came together earlier this year, and they were catalyzed by Ubisoft's decision to end online support for The Crew. And The Crew has been a very, very popular driving game, and it's been around for 10 years. So it's a racing game that's been very, very popular and played by very many people. And then suddenly it just became unplayable because of its online requirements. So the founding member of this campaign group, he's called Ross Scott, is hoping that this sort of pressure from gamers will convince governments to impose laws requiring game makers to ensure games are left in a playable state. But online support is ended very generally by removing any dependence on connectivity in order to function. Well, I think this is all well and fine, but it's perhaps it's easier said than actually done. That's certainly my opinion. You will require resources that will fund the revenue which is necessary for the maintenance of live service. And, the UK government and parliament petition website says that any petition that will muster more than 10,000 signatures will get a response from the government. And you will know that today, in the world of Twitter and all the other social networking hubs, it's quite easy to get 10,000 signatures, particularly if you're jumping on a bandwagon of something that's highly contested or controversial. And, that means that lots of different petitions will go to the government, and will they be wanting to look at every one of them is a very big question. So this one, the last petition, is well past the benchmark. They initially had more than 23,000 signatures, and they said that certainly they're not really expecting a very structured type of response. And so the message that we're getting is consumers should be aware that there is no requirement in UK law compelling software companies and providers to support older versions of the operating system, software or connected products. I.e., if you bought a game that operates on, let's say, Windows 7 and now you can't play it on Windows 11, well, tough. Times have changed. We moved on. We all got older. The new tech is being applied today, and therefore this can't be accessed. I don't really know what to say about this. I mean, there may be occasions where companies make commercial decisions based on high running costs of maintaining older servers for video games that have declining user bases. I don't know really what to say. It's hard to tell. I mean, I'm personally very frustrated that some of the games cannot be accessed anymore. And personally, it is very frustrating that all the discs you bought previously, you cannot use anymore on the present day and age consoles. And it's a similar sort of thing. It's a similar sort of thing because you played The Crew and then played for 10 years. You have your entire network based on the membership, on your regular contributions, participation, live online streams, you name it. And then suddenly it's gone. And I think everyone who had invested 10 years of their life into that sort of activity will have a serious problem. And we're not talking about, 2,000 people. So I can understand as to where they're coming from. And going back to what the government said, well, they indicated that the law of UK or United Kingdom requires relevant consumer information to be clear and correct. And I have to say that sometimes the consumer information is not correct when you're buying things online, purchasing games, and you got the accept the terms and conditions. There are 50 pages of the contract, and very few people will go through the contract to find out what the obligations are. And I discussed that here live online in my gaming sessions with our American friends, and they said that in the US, they cannot contest this in court because in every one of those agreements, if the game is a live server game, the consumer is being labeled as somebody who's borrowing the service. So they're not purchasing the service. They're basically using the service as long as it's available. Similar to a library, you can borrow the books from it, but actually when they close down the library, there's no more books. And I don't know. That's the explanation they've given me, and I was a bit baffled by the whole idea. Ultimately, you had invested your revenue in that product, and you weren't a borrower in classical sense of the word. So they said that the relevant consumer information needs to be clear and correct, and then the law forbids omitting, hiding, or presenting that information in an unclear unintelligible, ambiguous, or untimely manner. So to that end, if consumers are led to believe that the game will remain playable indefinitely for certain systems, despite the end of physical support, the consumer protection regulations may require that the game remains technically feasible, for example, available offline, to play under those circumstances. But, how would you play the game offline if it does require an active participation of other people? You'll have to go to the live service, right? I don't know. I'm not a technical expert, but maybe we need to contact the guys from Digital Foundry. They'll explain that to us, whether this is possible. What I say is there may be a discrepancy between the ideals of what we are requesting and the actual factual reality of what is made possible. Can you play on a console if your power is cut, if you have no electricity anywhere? Will you be able to play on a console? Well, you won't, because obviously you have no power supply. And it's a similar sort of situation. And I guess it needs to be observed from every angle, be it legal, be it from the consumer's point of view, from the company. They have to come up with some sort of solution. At the moment, the industry is progressing down the route of offering many more games which are delivered through the live service, similar to what you have with cloud. You will not be able to access your cloud unless you have access to it. If the cloud is shut down for whatever reason, your information is gone. Do you see what I mean? It's a funny old game. And then they say that reports of instances in which those regulations have been broken can be made to relevant consumer helplines, and there is a right to repair, replacement, or some money back in cases where digital games fail to meet legal requirements. It's very difficult, really. I have not had any problems. I bought quite a lot of games on PlayStation, Xbox. I've not had a single problem with any of those. So digitally purchased, left in my online accounts for PlayStation and Xbox, and then downloaded and played. Not a single problem. And believe you me, I played very many games. There have been problems in the past with discs. Yet again, I personally not experienced a single one, even when I bought them secondhand in CX. But I have heard from other people that there were issues. And there were issues specifically on some consoles. I remember that when the first gen Xbox One came out, there have been some of those which had some problems. It was a mechanical problem with the loading of the discs, and then it wouldn't read the disc. That I did have. I did have one Xbox One model which was not going to be playing Blu-rays and DVDs properly, and consequently didn't want to play some of the DVDs, the Xbox games as well. Then I investigated, realized it was one of those faulty models, and went back and exchanged without any difficulty. And all the other models that I had always worked perfectly. But there could be a problem one way or the other, where things are not delivered, or they're not performing, and therefore the manufacturer or the distributor or the publisher, as is the case with games, will have to have that responsibility, which is obviously clearly stated. And they also said consumers should also be aware that while there is a statutory right for goods, which is including also intangible digital content, which needs to be of a highly satisfactory quality, that will only be breached if they are not of the standard which a reasonable person would consider to be satisfactory. I guess the numbers will be also important, taking into account circumstances including the price of any description given. For example, a manufacturer's support for mobile phone is likely to be withdrawn as they launch new models, and it will remain usable, but without, for example, security updates, and over time some app developers may decide to withdraw support. Well, that's hypothetical, because if your phone is completely filled up with updates, as has been the case with some of my phones, on Sony, they keep giving you massive updates, and then suddenly there isn't any more memory. There's enough RAM memory for you to be operating if you're using one of those models that are not maxed out with the RAM memory. And the manufacturer will have no obligation to do anything but to offer a new phone which you can purchase. So, well, at the end of the day, the tech is advancing so rapidly, and it's very hard to predict what consequences there will be. As we've seen, the older games from the 90s, for instance, they've all been at one stage completely ignored and forgotten with the emergence of consoles and new systems. But eventually they all came back to the market. You have companies that bought everything that was on offer without any license or without any copyright or anything else, and GOG, Golden Old Games, offer you the vast majority of games now on a price which is very low. It's only a couple of pounds per game, and you can easily download. They're patched, they will work on any systems, computer systems that you have today, and it's a true joy. What I'm trying to say is that presently there's a battle, but eventually there may be a different position taken on as to why it is important to keep an archive of everything that has been produced. I mean, think about the film industry. At one stage in the US, the studios that had mass production, that produced like many thousands of films, they simply didn't have enough space in their warehouses, and then they basically decided to take all the prints of the films which they made and turn them into glue. You know, they were melted into glue and then sold to other companies to be used as glue. Today, these films are highly sought after, and they would be seen as the titles which are lost and collector's items. If a negative is found, they go to the Library of Congress, or they go to private collectors, and it's a different perspective today. What I'm trying to say is that we all kind of change with times, and it is possible that gaming industries in next 10-15 years will be considered as incredibly important. There will be like a new form of art that needs to be archived and kept in museums in the same way as you've had the classical arts. You know, at the time, people not considering Rembrandt or the artists of the period to be anything else but people who are providing something to be placed on the wall or immortalize somebody's appearance before the invention of photography. But then eventually, museums had been built, you know, because obviously people realized whatever had been produced artistically was representing that era and one stage of human development. And therefore, we have so many museums today. So I think that is probably likely to be somewhere in the future. All right, so that's all that we are having from PC Gamer in response to this petition. I'll give you a few more bits which had arrived, and you will find, for instance, of interest that there are quite a few games arriving to Game Pass and PS Now and PS Plus. I keep saying PS. It was called PS Now previously, you know, the streaming service of Sony's, but they changed the name, and therefore we have something else today. So I'm quite excited to see that one of my favorite games of recent years, certainly one of the best games produced in the last 10 years, Red Dead Redemption 2, is arriving to PlayStation Plus this month. And in addition to that, there will be 12 other games. So Red Dead is going to be on, I think, Premium. And you will have Watch Dogs also coming back to the catalogue together with it. Both games were part of the services offered a little while back, but they've been basically taken down and now they're coming back. It's always the same story. You had the same thing with GTA on Xbox Game Pass. It came and went, and it happened several times. So trying to bring in some new subscribers. So let me see what the overall number of titles is. Yeah, we got it here. And I would say some of them are really good. You have the biggest ones, that's the Red Dead and Watch Dogs, and they are PS4 games. Then you have Deceiving Incorporated. Then you have a very popular game, strategy game, The Sims 4 City Living. Crime Boss Rocky City, that's also a very good game. It's a PS5 game. I don't know whether you played it, but it's similar to the other gangster games that we already had on Sony. The Settlers New Allies, PS4 game. Stranded Alien Dawn, also quite a good game, played it. Cat Quest 1 and 2, and the Lego Movie 2 video game, and these are the ones. And then the classic games, and I'm particularly excited, I have to say, to see that G-Police is coming to PS4 and PS5. This was one of my favorite PS1 games. I played it a lot in the 90s, and together with G-Police, you'll have two other titles coming in. Worms Pinball, which has been also very popular and widely played for many years, and then 2 Extreme. 2 Extreme not played, so I'll definitely be curious to try. What's beautiful about both streaming services is that the vast majority of titles will have instant cloud access. You can stream them without needing to download. If you're curious and interested, just go and have a look. I have to warn you, on PlayStation Premium, you will get lots of classic titles, and they're not properly remastered or patched for the new console, so the graphics are quite poor. Well, I mean, they look poor on the new setups, and sometimes you get bumps and glitches in the game, and it's not quite the same experience to what you would have expected. But still, the game's accessible, and they look better compared to, let's say, the same disc being brought into the PlayStation 1 and plugged into your state-of-the-art 4K TV. So one way or the other, they will require, in the near future, polishing up and remastering and everything else, but nevertheless, they're accessible, and it's a true joy to see the games like Siphon Filter, the series, which was considered to be one of the very best shooting games on PlayStation 1, and then G-Police and Splinter Cell, and all the other ones. Well, Splinter Cell was on PlayStation 1, stand corrected, but the games of that era, like the original Silent Hill, for instance, which many people consider still to be the very best in the series, and that is really very, very good. So remember, these games are coming to your PlayStation Plus, and you can access them from the catalogue at any time. And let me see what else we've got here for you. We have some news in response to that Xbox turmoil, and we've heard that Tango Gameworks will be rolling out a patch for Hi-Fi Rush immediately, and that is going to be the last one. So let me see what is being said. Tango Gameworks are telling us that Hi-Fi Rush will get a final patch today, and they confirm that the physical edition of the rhythm action game is still in the works. It's interesting, they're closing down a studio, but they will be releasing the game on discs, and previously the game was just offered for digital downloads. So you have a lengthy patch as well, and then that is for all platforms, and then you have some news indicating that you're working your way through the achievements. You'll still have a new patch to download, and the developer said also that the patch is being rolled out immediately. So if you're interested, there is a trailer in there that's telling you a bit about it. You just access my Twitter, all the information is on it. And then it says it's not quite clear what the update will contain, but it will address some minor issues, and hopefully it will make the game play a lot better. And they're still working on a physical edition. They have not been confirming the release date, but they said just stay tuned for more details. So that's certainly interesting. I kind of look forward to seeing what will happen next, and what will happen to Tango staff and executives and everyone else. It's a company that produced wonderful games. Don't forget, this was the only Japanese studio that Xbox owned, and I think that perhaps in view of the costs and various other liabilities was a critical factor before that decision was taken. So they say that there's been some complaint launched through various platforms about Xbox not doing any marketing for Hellblade 2, which will be released next week. And they kind of kept it very tight, and they said the marketing campaign was going to kick off 2 weeks before the game was coming to our shelves and auto consoles if you are buying it digitally. And so they really are pushing the idea of how good the game is, and we have seen already some clips. The visuals seem to be really absolutely terrific, mouth-watering as I call it. And we've heard some news from Xbox today, coming to us from Xbox Wire, that Ninja Theory strives to make Senua the most human character in gaming, and I think that's quite correct. It's not most human just in her appearance. It's to do with the way she comes across, her character structure, her dialogue, the ultra realism of Psychosis. All these factors are very, very important, and she already was a very human character in the first game, but apparently in the sequel that will be elevated. So let's see what they said. They said that Senua's Sacrifice was the original game was an exceedingly special game. This was a really fantastic type of direction for Ninja Theory, and they created a relatively short game with a narrative that's based on someone's mental health, a bit like what we are doing in here. They consider it to be a really brave leap, and generally it really paid off as the game was highly popular and received so many different awards from many different competitions and institutions. So we have 7 years later a new game coming to us, which is Hellblade 2: Senua's Saga, and they said that this is basically the studio's ultimate form. It is filled with the best talent, with terrific technology, and they said that what they really wanted to achieve was to elevate the immersive experience of Hellblade 1 to a degree where you were literally that character. So, you know, I'm in two minds about this. This character is very, very frightening. Her mental state is highly disturbed and detrimental to her in all sorts of ways. So becoming that character, being in that person's mind, will have an impact on you. So the idea is for people to become as fully aware of what mental illness is like as possible. And that needs to be stated also, I think, at the beginning of the game for all participants not to be scared of or to suffer some degree of consequence, because it is scary. And if you are playing Hellblade on a high quality headset, you would have experienced this very disturbed world, which is full of turmoil, and you know, with voices popping up from all sides. You can hear them. Some voices are speaking in a loud voice, and the others are very quiet. They come from all ends, from the back, from the front, left, right, up, down, you name it. And the quality of the audio is actually Senua, you know. And like what I watched the documentary the other day when they were this is a short presentation for ID at Xbox, and then the sound director said, well, actually, I feel like I am Senua. We all are Senua because we are living her, and it's a very difficult task because the character is very disturbed. But at the same time, she's highly likable, and you kind of identify with the pain and the suffering. So, you know, that's just a minor warning coming from me if you're entering the sequel without any form of knowledge on what all of that was about. It's not just about a Viking fighting other Vikings. It's somebody who is highly disturbed, and the whole vision she has is psychosis, and she's living in a present day and age. Well, she was in the first game. Maybe they stretched that today and it's a different story, but you know, I was expecting at the end of Hellblade for her to be in bed and she'd just wake up and then realize, oh, I'm living it. But obviously that would have prevented perhaps this sort of sequel, and didn't materialize. Just my wishful thinking. So let me see what else they say. They're giving us a rundown on the story, and I don't want to tell you anything which this could be seen as spoiler, but I have some images in here at the front of me, which are the latest that just come out of Xbox Studios, and they really look incredible. I have to say, the facial expression of Senua's and the fear, the terror, the anxiety, they're visible so clearly, you know, in every pore. And she's also grown up, or she's sort of older than in the first game, which I guess is going to be making a difference for some people. And then, so they said at the end of Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice, we see Senua come to terms with the loss of her loved Dylan, and then soak in the physical and emotional journey she's undertaken. And her sequel begins with a sum of that evolution. She's hardened by her experiences, familiar and accepting of her condition, and tasked with a wider, more selfless goal. The emergence of Senua's personality and extroversion of herself as she meets new people is an extraordinary step in making her real feel. You know, it's just interesting the way they're describing it, but I thought this was all the product of a disturbed mind, the way it came across to me. Like a nightmare from which she cannot wake up. And so her purpose in the first game was very interior. The guilt she felt over Dylan was a very personal mission to her, says the stage director and writer Lara Durham of the sequel. While that drive is still present in the game, she is pushing her goal a little more out of herself and into the world. It's not about her personal love or her circumstances, it is about preventing harm from coming to other people now. So she needs to be protecting those other people. And they said that they have this evolution in Senna's character, which is outlined by a deep understanding of herself and how her experiences are no fault of her own. They engage Professor Paul Fletcher, who has been the senior mental health consultant on the Hellblade series, and he also, I guess, highlighted that the hallmark of Senna's sacrifice was it was totally enveloped by a darkness, and I think she's emerging from that and finding a different meaning. So they're saying that the second game perhaps will not be having the same depressing, bleak undertones, you know, of darkness, of blackness, of that sort of thing. And the director said it's not about Senna's personal love or circumstances, it's all about preventing harm from coming to other people. And she's still faced with the ever-present mental load of the Furies. And the Furies are the voices which are competing in her head. And these voices had sort of evolved with her, and they have more external factors to react as she is likely to be meeting lots of new characters in the game. They do not have a consistent tone of voice. They're reactive to Senna's state of mind. If she's anxious or frightened, they tend to be louder and a bit more chaotic and overbearing. When things are calm, then they're quieter and less intrusive. And that's really a proper reflection of what psychosis is like for people who are suffering from it, you know. It comes together, it gets escalated by the anxiety levels. There's a biological root somewhere between the person's difficulty in coping with physical anxiety, which is physically represented, and then how that manifests itself within the mind. It's still not something which is medically clear. It's not known as to why that's happening for certain people. But there are those links made, and we can see those links today with imaging. So it's no longer a hypothesis. It's actually scientifically defined, but we can see it. We don't know really why it's happening, and we don't really know what consequences there will be either. So this dynamic rule set allows for brief moments of respite for the player, but also showcases growth in how Senna manages a condition. According to Fletcher, this is in keeping with the clinical experiences of those living with psychosis. The voices do shift in what they mean to an individual, which is absolutely 100% correct. And Professor Fletcher is just making it clear to everyone that their assistance was trying to really, first of all, elevate the knowledge and awareness of what mental health issues are like, and to help them to portray psychosis in the clearest, the most frightening types of terms possible. So this is a very frightening game. You know, this is not your Resident Evil, but it has a very different type of unsettling experience which you'll go through due to the fact that the lead character is suffering from schizoaffective psychosis, and she's being tormented by so-called Furies, i.e. the voices, and her life is being ruined by the fact that they're attacking her mind and her well-being at all times, particularly at times when she is perhaps tired or anxious. So what Professor Fletcher said is, what I find interesting is that the voices, and I comment on what other people are doing, which definitely was not part of the first game. The first game, she was very immersed in that experience of guilt for Dylan's death, and the voices were commenting all the time on her character and her abilities or inabilities. And in this instance, the voices are more preoccupied, in addition to her own feelings, with, I guess, other participants, other characters whom she's meeting in the game. So they may encourage her to distrust that other person, or what that person is saying, which really captures the dual reality that people might face in the midst of psychosis, being basically split in between two different realities. The way you see this person and what you are fearing from them. And frequently, just to put in perspective, people who suffer from psychosis will have an element of their own fear, which they do not want to own up to, or recognize to a degree unconsciously, and it's being then projected. Excuse me. It's being identified in this other person. So it's quite complicated. You feel that the other person is perhaps unsettling to you, but you are projecting a lot of your own fears onto that person, believing that it is this other person who will be doing that to you. In fact, it is yourself who is having a fantasy about doing this to him. It's like a boomerang type of effect. And if they capture it well in a game, then that is going to be obviously a masterpiece. And keep forgetting whether she's the narrative director or stage director and writer, beg your pardon, Lara Durham. She noted that most people have some sort of internal monologue active when somebody else is talking to them, but it's like not at the foreground and it's not audible. So it's a bit like your thought process, but it's not. I don't agree with that. I think it's very different. When you listen to somebody, you're being focused on other person's words, and then you are transforming that into some sort of imagery, like a film in your head, through which you're understanding what they're actually saying. Psychosis are like an intruder, like a beast that keeps intruding all the time. It's preventing you from listening to other people. So I think that the writer perhaps in two minds about this. And imagine if every time somebody was talking to you, you had that constant commentary on what they're saying, maybe even arguing about the meaning. Every time Senua meets a new character, the voices are going to react to that. Yeah, that's a totally realistic portrayal of what happens when somebody cannot concentrate on a person's words because they have to be listening to the voices. The voices are giving a running commentary as you're watching a football match on what this person is about to be doing, and all of that has got very little bearing on the actual real thing, on what's actually happening. It's all projected. It's all kind of coming from one's own fears and emotions, negative emotions and imagination. So Fletcher accentuates, I couldn't pronounce it, I apologize for that. Fletcher accentuates this by describing a big step in the understanding of psychosis from a research perspective, which revolves around the meaningfulness of experiences for those living with psychosis. They're not just neural noise, he says. The experiences are constructed in the same way we all construct our reality. So he said, what's exciting for me about Hellblade 2 is the growing interest that people can entertain two levels of reality. Senua may have the darkness and the voices, but at the same time, she can recognize and be a part of other people's constructions too. Which is the case with people who are suffering from so-called borderline personality disorder, people who suffer from chronic catatonic schizophrenia or chronic psychosis will have a difficulty in approaching the other person in the same fashion. But it's all down to an individual. It's very hard to tell whether it is going to be exactly the same for everyone, as we all very different. So there will be some people with chronic conditions that can engage with others, and there are some who actually are living in a completely isolated world. As I said, very much dependent on how their mental world and their biology functions altogether. So Senua's willingness to be part of other people's stories is showcasing another aspect of how she is moving past certain experiences that made her so isolated and insular. So they say her psychosis had influenced her relationship with other people to the point where she was wary and withdrawn from the world. And what we are showing today is her starting to overcome that, depending on who she meets, and we are showing that her perspective is just as valuable as anyone else's. So I guess in the sequel, she will have more of that reality check come in compared to the first game, where she was guilt-ridden and therefore unable to separate from the voices. Some people react to her with harshness or horror, but some will see her differently, and she will find a lot of common ground and will be sharing positive experiences with those people. It's really exciting to watch Senua explore these interpersonal dynamics and relationships with her characters, and overall how she can help them. Well, from what they're saying, Senua is going to be significantly different compared to the old, so we need to wait and see. Senua's sacrifice is considered one of, if not the most authentic representations of psychosis in modern media, and I absolutely echo that. I mean, I've seen lots of films, television series and games, not a single one managed to capture what it's like to be living with psychosis in the same way. This is just the most realistic portrayal of that, and I personally do not suffer from psychosis, but I have worked with very many people over the years, and I've been relying on their experience and what they have been telling me, and also I relied on my own visual experience of those people, the way they were, the way they kind of walked around and talked to themselves, and the way they were preoccupied with certain thoughts, etc. So that really is the key to which I believe that this game is the best, not one of them, but the best representation of what it's like to be living with psychotic illness. And then both Derham, the writer, and Fletcher, the professor, both agree that there may never be a truly complete depiction of the condition because the condition is very fluent and it is constantly changing, doesn't remain static, and people's relationships, both to other people as well as to their own illness, changes over a period of time. And that's also linked to the progression in life, be changed biologically, certain biological changes which at present still perhaps are not well understood or detected, will be affecting the way such illness is developing over a lengthy period of time. So we're talking about several decades. One line in particular struck me during the time with Senua Hellblade 2, which sees Senua assertively saying, "It's not a prison, it's a promise." So in this moment, we see Senua make peace with the past and prepare to pursue her new goal confidently, not just for herself, but also for the people who are around her. It's in this line where the writer of this article feels that, really feels growth as a character, as a survivor, and more widely as a woman living in a harsh world with a chronic invisible condition. Well, that's critical, I mean, I've known lots of survivors, and I have worked with people over an extended period of years that come to me in the late teens, and I would see them then many years later in the late 20s, early 30s, and you could see how illness changed. And in some cases, they changed quite tremendously. Sometimes medication worked and they were helped. At other times, they changed internally through certain kinds of internal experiences, like what they said, Professor Fletcher and the writer. If there have been changes in terms of how you were dealing with your guilt, then the psychosis will also change because it is aligned with that experience of guilt internally within your mind. And the writer Durham says, it was important for us to show that Senua is still on a lengthy journey. The courage and persistence that she showed in the first game is still very evident, but it is a lot more self-directed today. She will hear voices that will try to influence her, but she can choose whether to respond to that or simply not. She has agency in a way she didn't have in the first game, and that kind of evolution really is the key. Absolutely. I really look forward to this, and to put this in perspective, it is going to be released exclusively on Xbox next week, so make sure you preload and hit that play button as soon as possible as the game comes as the game becomes live, and therefore you are going to be able to play it at will and enjoy the gameplay, the ultra realism of this. And it's strange to say enjoy it because it's such a difficult subject, and obviously she's so tormented, but we are going to be enjoying the craftsmanship of the team, the mastery through which they're giving us this message, and these incredibly immersive, these beautiful environments which they have created for us. And you will know from the first game, this is a game of walking, listening, and battling, and that's likely to be in the second game they will be the most prominent features. So I invite everyone to download, preload, and then play the game if you're a subscriber. If not, just purchase the game. And don't forget, by purchasing the game, you're also contributing to that awareness of what it's like to be mentally ill, and you're supporting the effort that Ninja Theory and Microsoft indeed had been pursuing now for some time, in order to bring that degree of awareness to wider communities, people who are maybe not even belonging to our gaming groups, but elsewhere. Alright, so I think that's all I had for you today. So thank you very much for listening. Thank you for being here with me for my news bulletin. It's great always to be able to engage with my community and present you with whatever is the hottest and the latest out there that comes to me on the wire and elsewhere. We are going to be progressing to our gameplay. We'll be doing some Destiny 2 Onslaught and maybe some other activities. Don't forget, Destiny 2 is giving us now free access to all expansions and all activities. So if you are one of those guys who's playing it on Xbox and perhaps not doing it on PlayStation, you are going to be having free access to everything, the entire content, which also includes the seasonal loot that is collectible at the moment until the 4th of June. So make sure you step in, try it, collect as much as possible, and enjoy. Alright, on that note, I shall wish you all a very good afternoon. Stay with me. I will be doing some Destiny 2 gameplay live very shortly on Twitch, and we'll bring in some of our community members today together with us. So remember, subscribe, support, donate, and therefore help our charities. We are helping Mind at the moment, trying to raise the profile of the organization with the wider public, and we are trying to get as many contributions as possible. So make sure you donate, hit that button which says About Me, and then go to the panels and you'll get Tiltify page, and you can provide as much or as little as you wish. If you are not in position to donate, then just make sure you follow, you share, you like, and spread the word, because this campaign will be helping everyone in our country who's suffering from mental health illness or any form of psychological difficulty. The charity Mind is helping everybody through their services in our communities, and they deliver them through the volunteers and professionals. They provide counseling, practical support, all sorts. So just keep this in mind. Subscribe, support, donate, and help our charities. On that note, I wish you all a very good afternoon and see you all shortly.